Hello, welcome pen friends. Welcome to Secret Ink number 3 ink profile. We're going through Ink Flight 27, the April 2019 ink flight, and this is the third ink. It's a deep red, and I'm hoping we'll be able to get some good representation of what it looks like here. But let's get started by putting it into the bath test here, and we'll see what happens. Ooh, it's a bright. Look at that coming out. You can tell what's going, it's got a lot going on in there. Whoops. I like to get it kind of saturated without having a flood. There we go. Okay, and we'll let that work. And I just want to give you a quick report from the last ink, Secret Ink number 2. And these won't be remaining secret very long. On Friday, Ink Journal is going to give the public kind of reveal on them, and then we can talk all about the companies and the company and all that kind of thing. So this is number 2, and this was this beautiful juicy purple, and it was partially resistant to the water. It stayed on a little bit, but not much, and it was super easy to clean out. So I gave it an A on the clean out scale. No problems whatsoever. Flushed out really good, and I had a lot of fun with this one. It was hard to take that out of my pen. But I like red too, and red is a very interesting color. So we see a little bit of sheen on here. It's sort of a dark sheen. It's hard to really, it kind of borders toward gold, I guess. But let's get right into the Rodya Gold book. I've got it in both ink journals though, so that we can kind of take a look. Because as you know, if you watched my last video, I'm experimenting with a new one with Tomoya river paper in it. But we're going to look at both of them, and I think that may help us. So here we are in the Rodya Gold book. It's empty up here. We're going to put in the manufacturer and the ink name, and we'll put where it's available shortly when Friday comes along. April 26, 2019, we'll be free to do that. But in the meantime, I did like how it looked in the broad nib and in the fine nib too. Some of the papers, it lightens or it brightens into a kind of a bright red in the fine nib, but in here it didn't in this one. So we'll see some other examples. And here's the chromatography. I actually see magenta and orange and a deeper kind of maroon coming out. It's quite interesting. It's very surprising actually. So okay, so here it is on that one. And then we're going to open up. This is the Bond Travel Gear A5 notebook with Tomoya river paper in it, and it's white paper, and that's the reason I wanted us to kind of begin to see the difference. And there is a difference in how it looks. Ooh, I'm working around this tripod for some reason. It does look quite a bit different. We're talking about white paper, and we're also talking about the Tomoya river paper. So I think we can begin to see that. Let me hold it a little bit toward the natural light. And it does show that it lightens a little bit more in the fine nib on this paper, but it's nice and saturated in there. This paper does give us one thing where the dots kind of show white. That's new for me because in the Rodya Gold book on the left, that doesn't happen. But that's not a big deal to me. And I like the fact that it only went through just a little bit here. That may also bother me some because I haven't had that happening in this one. But that's why we're doing this test, because if it turns out that I want to use this for something else, it's got numbered pages and an index, so I'm not going to have any trouble. Okay, so let's move on to the small notebooks. Now I have wrecked the set here. We're going to start in the Leuchtturm 1917 dot grid one, as we usually do here. And here it is. It's coming out nice and bright on there. And this is a little bit of a cream paper too. That's how it comes. And I use a Leuchtturm bullet journal, so I like to test out each one of these to see how it works. Wow, I'm seeing that ink is disappearing, so that's interesting. But I liked how it looked on here. It reminded me an awful lot of Kaweco Ruby Red in a way. And then in another way that I'll show you, it didn't. But it bled through just a little where it's painted on. No other place did it bleed through. And I thought it really looked bold and pretty for a red. Nice. Okay, let's see. We got Oh, for some reason my stacks are really bothering me today. Stacks of piles and stuff. Okay, here's the Caliber, CVS Caliber Memo Notebook. And it looked super on here. I was surprised. Here we get quite a bit of gold sheen, or it looks gold to me. It's not as sparkly as some other inks might be with the gold, but it shows up. And then it's just nice and bold here in the broad nib. And it shows up plenty well in the Lamy fine nib too. And I did put nice. I liked it. I just like the ink. Red is not my first choice normally to write with. I've had this in my pens for several days because it got to be the busy Easter weekend. But here it is on the little Nemesine notebook from a previous ink flight. And it does give us quite a bit to, to show how nice and dark and deep that red is. It was pretty. Secret ink number 3. Okay. Oh, we were having just super weather. It was like I wanted to be outside all the time, and then I got a super lot of creative projects and family things going on and all kinds of stuff. But there it was. It's in the Moon Man glass nib in this writing sample. Let's see if I can get it a little closer. It looks pretty dark, but then that's how it is with those nibs. That's a pretty good medium nib, and the ink, was flowing really nicely. Didn't have to redip at all. Okay, one more notebook, and this is the Tomoya River paper, the Live Notes by Pen Gallery, 68 GSM, but instead of being white like it was in the Bond one, but we'll get that one out because I would like to compare the two. I think this is in preparation for when I return from my trip and I start deciding what's going to be my new permanent journals for these reviews. All right, we'll just fold that over. I'd like to be able to see it compared. Okay, so you can kind of tell that this is the ivory paper here that's kind of a cream or ivory. It's not white. And then this is the white. So it does look different. Let me hold that right up. It's almost a deeper on this paper. That's how it comes across. But I like it. It had some interest in here when you painted it on. Let's look and see if it went through. It just went through a little bit, and that's exactly what it did on the other sample. Just a little tiny bit where it was painted on good. Let's see. I think my tripod may be just a little too low. I'm used to having it a little higher. Okay, so we've got it in the broad nib and the fine nib, just like over here. And that just gives you a chance to compare them on the different, it's the same kind of paper, the 68 GSM, but it's white over here and kind of an ivory or cream over here. Okay, so that's the end of the notebooks, but we have some samples. Got it over here on the 52 gram. My personal favorite Tomoya River paper is this 52 gram, and this is the white. I actually use it mostly in the cream for letter writing, but this just has a really nice way that it displays the ink. You could see those little kind of highlights on the side there, but I did notice a big jump down from the broad nib to the fine nib, and I don't know if you could tell, but it brightens up the red a little to go into the fine nib on this particular paper. And I wasn't noticing it as much on the other Tomoya River paper. I'm not going to get that out again because I'm just going to make you dizzy. But I did notice the more drastic difference on white when you went into the fine nib, that's all. Okay, and then next is Clairefontaine 90 gram French ruled paper. And we're getting there. This is our third ink. Nice and saturated on here. It sits up there and it's more ink resistant, the paper, so this was real nice and even, and it just looks good, I think. And it stayed almost, true to the color. It does get just a little more bright red in the Lamy fine nib, but not much. It wasn't really that much difference. Okay, so then over here in the Rodya, this is Rodya 80 gram dot pad. We got a little bit of, that's interesting. That doesn't normally happen. A little bit of the sheen came out to play there. And then it just looks nice and bold and dark in the broad nib, and lightens a little bit in the fine nib, but not enough to lose readability whatsoever. It's just that if you really like that maroonish look, you're going to want to use a broad or a stub nib, I think. I really do think if you lean toward a brighter red and you like this ink, then you probably will want to be writing in a fine nib, or extra fine even. Okay, one more paper sample, and that is the Georgia Pacific 20-pound, just regular old cheap copy paper. Okay, and here it is. It did, you know, it feathers a little, and let me see if I can hold that right up so you can see. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see it real good. It's not totally unacceptable. It's a little better in the fine nib though. And I would think that would be pretty standard. It would always be better in the fine nib. And it might be better in like a pilot nib, because that would be even finer. It bled through only on the painted on part though. So these three inks have been very similar. It tries to maybe bleed through here and there, but it doesn't do anything that would really disturb you on the other side. I really don't think that would bother me at all. So, okay, so now we'll check in on our ink, and then we'll get to the panel, which is quite interesting today. All right, so this is acting very typical. It's just about gone. You can sort of see where, you know, the remains of the ink, but that may not stay. That may go away too. Okay, so let's straighten out here and get our panel. I put it almost out of reach. Okay, so let's see here. We've got our mystery or secret ink number 3 right in the middle. And this was challenging because, as it turns out, I didn't have very many that were right in that same ballpark. They tend to be either deeper, like these down here. This is J Herbin Rouge Granat, and that's deeper. I don't know if you could tell on here, but it's a much deeper burgundy kind of color. And so is Monteverde Passion Burgundy, but it still made the panel. I put Diamine Red Dragon on here just because a lot of people know what it looks like. It does have a lot of gold sheen, which is hard to show you, but it's there. But it sort of doesn't really look the same shade as the Mystery Ink number 3 here. In fact, I don't know for sure, but I kind of felt like KWZ Red number 1 came pretty close. There's nothing on here that's an exact match. And once I got Kaveco Ruby Red down on the panel, I saw that they vary a lot, especially when you see the inner part. You know how this looks a lot pinker? And then this one does look redder, or almost almost out of this world. It's kind of different. And then just for kind of stabilizing our red, you know, this would be what I would think of as a red crayon, you know, or a kindergarten red, Diamine Classic Red. That's pretty straight up red. So we are dealing with a deeper, almost burgundy sort of red when you really look at it. But then it comes out of the nibs differently depending on what you're using. And then, well, KWZ Thief's Red has that brightness in common, you know, at times, but it's just not as deep as Secret Ink number 3. So this was very interesting. It always is when you start, you know, I'll get in my head and I'll say, oh, it's just like Ruby Red. Well, no, not really. No, because Ruby Red definitely has that maroonish, or, you know, it just has a different tone to it, I guess. Okay, let's look and see what happened on the visual journal. It was less than stunning, but it was still fun. But it just sort of did what another ink that I once had do this was the lipstick red that I thought I was going to be wild about. That's a Robert Oster lipstick red. Did something similar to this, where it just sort of pinkened up. But it's not bad. It's just not as conducive to the Nick Stewart technique as some of the other inks. It's not one-dimensional. It does have the deeper colors and then the pink, but it doesn't have that complexity. And then over here, it just went completely, you know, it just really wouldn't do much without being turned around to kind of force it to move. So that was just the water put on and then some dots of ink. And it wasn't going to go anywhere. It was literally going to sit there unless I kind of let it roll around with the water on the page. So this wasn't, you know, as stunning as some of the others, like our last one. Our last one was so complex. So this is like Secret Ink #1, the blue, which was pretty one-dimensional, but it was pretty and bright. And then this one had a lot of complexity. This was Secret Ink #2, and here we are on 3. So nonetheless, it's always fun. Okay, so what is next as far as ink reviews is this Secret Ink #4. Kind of a wheat color. Let's see what they called it. I can't remember. Oh, maybe they didn't call it anything. I keep forgetting we're in the middle of a okay, #4, rock this brown if you like a smoky shading ink. Oh, good. I like shading inks. So that is next for ink profile. And then I got something else I just thought you guys might be interested in. We'll look at this. Yeah, that's going bye-bye. That's going to be probably what I would call super typical. But I thought maybe we'd get out the pen goodie, one of them, or both of them. Okay, so one of the pen goodies was this J Herbin Refillable Marker. And mine came with a 5mm. It's quite broad. It's like it's a marker, and we're going to just play with it. I thought that would be fun. Because, you know, what happens sometimes? Sometimes the pen goodies get put in a drawer or put in with my brushes. That's where it was sitting. And, you know, there's no need for me to get the whole shebang, the samples and the pen goodies, unless I'm going to use the pen goodies and everything too, because they offer just the samples. But I told myself, I said, now you need to get this out and use it. So I thought maybe I'd share it with you. I scribbled with it a little bit. This screws off, and then inside there's a little, another little section that pops off real easily, you know, with your fingernail underneath. So I took that all off, and then I took a little ink syringe. I don't like using the pipettes because those are nice to cover my serendipity with. And this one did get stained, so I'll be changing that one out. Anyway, this seems to be ready to go. Whoops, oh, it's ready all right. And this is a little scrap of Tomoya River paper, so I thought we would just... And this, actually, what I have in here is Monteverde. It's one of my favorite inks, but I have a whole bottle, and I thought, hey, I can sacrifice a little ink to test this thing out. Purple Rain. Okay, so I mean, it's a marker, and a bold marker. I was actually scribbling with it earlier, and I thought, well, that would be nice for, you know, coloring things in, or I thought maybe even a background, but I know that you can water down the ink. I just wasn't quite prepared, ready to do that. I actually put quite a bit of ink in here. I put 3mm ink in here. I guess I didn't have to put that much. It's got some little roller ball type, or little agitator balls in it that seem to help it. Now, I'm not sure exactly what I'll use this for. I need creative help, I guess, or I need to think about it. But gosh, that's nice. You even get shading with that. That's amazing. This is one of my favorite inks, and I knew it wasn't so bold that it wouldn't be able to work. This works really good. Now, I'm not sure what I'll use it for, but I do like it, and it worked right away. I mean, there was no hesitation at all, and that looks pretty. So I know that they come in different widths, because I read that on what came from Ink Journal. But what I don't know is where on earth to get these. I mean, I went on eBay, I went on Jet Pens, I kind of did a regular search, and I was finding their refillable rollerball pen at Jet Pens for $11, but I wasn't finding this. So this is a mystery too, to me, as far as where these come from. And of course, I only researched about 10 minutes, but I couldn't find anything, so I thought, well, I wonder where they got them. That's neat. Huh. Anyway, there you have at least my initial impressions. Is it definitely works as a marker, and I can see that it will be really good on the Tomoya River paper. That's a pretty typical ink, and it's a broad line, that 5mm. Okay, the other pen goodie The other pen goodie was this beautiful little Clairefontaine List notebook. And I haven't put nib to paper on this either, but I'm actually thinking this might be nice for grocery lists, or maybe not grocery because I use that in a magnetic form on the refrigerator. But if I'm making a list for the craft store, which it happens, I don't go that often. So this is the Lamy Vista with the Mystery Ink number 3 in it. So let's just see how it does with the fine nib, and then we'll try it with the broad nib. Let's see. So I already know I need cord stops for my little project that I'm crocheting. So there's that. And I'm looking for a yarn, another yarn, which is called Sunshiny, I think. And I'm definitely looking for a yarn that is bamboo silk. I don't think I'm going to be able to find it in the store, but every time I go to the different places, I'm checking to see. So that's really smooth paper. Ooh, okay, that's going to have some dry time, I can tell. Maybe you can. It's quite wet, so if I turn it over, I may smear, but no bleed through. I like this. This is perfect for a list like that. And I definitely, like I said, I do keep running lists because I don't go very often to the craft store. It's a dangerous place to go for a person like me. So, you know, with all these different hobbies. So that's just a quick look at the pen goodies. I really liked them this time. I'm still not exactly sure how I'll use this one, but I'll definitely use it. And sometimes I label things in bold print for my mom, or I do something like that where I'm just looking for a marker, and I don't seem to have any Crayola markers anymore. So I'm going to be curious to see how long it stays without drying up. I have no idea about that. But, oh, and I was testing it the first time, you know, right after, and I was testing it making these big dots, and that was working out pretty good too. I thought that could dress up a bullet journal page. Not quite coming out the way it was. Oh, goodness. Okay, so I just pressed it like I would a Posca paint marker, and yeah. So I didn't need to do that. That was cuckoo. Now I've got these big purple drops that are going to have to work their way to be dry, or I'll have it all over me. Okay, I think that's time to end the video, and we will return with Secret Ink number 4. Hope you're having a great day. Bye for now.